Last week, I saw this on Twitter, which was basically a ranking list of the best KOLs. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be a great idea if I took this concept and applied it to ranking coins in crypto so that you guys could know what I think are the best coins, the S tier, and what are the worst coins, which would be down the D or the F tier. And so that's what I've gone ahead and done in this video, and that's what you're going to learn. So by the end of this video, I will have created the list of what I think are the best and the worst coins in crypto. And I'm going to be ranking them based off the latest version of my fundamental analysis sort of process that I follow. And I'm also going to teach you guys what that is here. And it's going to help you a lot because everything that I put in this list here, you can go off and you can go and apply to any project that you're looking into. And you're also going to know by the end of this video what I think are like really good projects worth investing in, what are projects that I think you should completely avoid. And the list that I came up with is just over here. This is some of the ones we're going to be going over. This list was basically the coins that were recommended to me to look into by my mastermind. So we're going to get straight into it. I have 6 main categories that I like to look into, okay? And this is the 6 ones here: tokenomics, team, community, initial distribution, the age of the project, and the product. Now, there's more than this that I actually like to look at, like the narrative and different things, but just for the sake of like a ranking criteria of individual project at any given point in time, we're going to look at these 6. But if you're trying to determine if a coin's worth buying now or later, you have to look at the narrative and you have to look at adoption metrics, okay? So that sort of stands outside of this list. But this list is really comprehensive. This will tell you if a coin is just generally good or bad. I cover a lot of different things here, like for tokenomics, are the token holders a priority? For me, this is like one of the most important parts. If a token holder is not a priority, you're going to know. It's pretty obvious. And there's a tweet here which I think summarizes it really well. You know, it's becoming really clear there's 2 types of token-backed founders. There's the token founder who basically builds their entire product around the token. They put the token in every single way that they can. They put revenue back into buying the token and burning the token. And then there's other token founders who really just use the token as a way to raise money to fund the building of the project. And they also make money from the fees from, you know, LPs and different things. And really, they're just making money from speculation. And the people buying the token buy it to speculate, but you don't own anything. There's no ownership over future cash flow. There's no ownership over the equity of the business. It's really just ownership over like speculation, basically. And there's no real plans to implement the token. And I try to avoid those projects. I mean, you can make money from them, but I try to avoid them. And that's what I factor into my research process. There's a number of other things here. Are they creating flywheels? How much of the supply is circulating? Are there VCs involved, or is it a retail token? A bunch of different things. In terms of the team, it's really about like, is there generational talent? Who's the founder? What have they built prior? Do they have a history of success? How fast are they executing? How quick are the updates coming out? Are they pivoting to new metas? That sort of thing. The way you analyze community, I think, has evolved because every coin these days is a cult coin, and you can engineer fake cult dynamics through AI, basically. Like you go on Twitter and it's like, wow, there's such a strong community, but every community looks strong these days. So I think community analysis really is shifting to like analyzing on-chain, analyzing the wallets, because if someone buys a token at $1 million market cap and now it's at 100 million, and most of the people who bought it early haven't sold, that is an objective analysis of a strong cult-like holder base if they haven't sold after 100x. But if it looks like a cult, but all the early guys sold, then it's like, is it really a cult? You know, so that's how I look at things more with the community. It's like wallet analysis. Initial distribution is just about what happened when it launched, who they give the tokens to when it launched, and at what valuation did they get in, and why did they get given tokens? Was there some sort of thing they had to do, or was it just like really easy public sale? You know, age of the project, when did it launch, that sort of thing. And then product, you know, what are they building? Are they building something new? Are they basically launching into a new meta or defining a new meta like Pump.fun did, like Telegram trading bots did, like Uniswap did with AMMs, like Frentech did with the social stuff? Is their product actually better? You know, that sort of thing. And product is actually sort of a new category that I'm following in my evaluation framework, okay? Because I made a 40-hour course on basically going over how to be an investor and all the different things you'd have to do for fundamental analysis and avoiding taxes or minimizing taxes, all these different things. And for the fundamental analysis category, I didn't really talk about product much because there wasn't much like product in crypto at the time. It was just a big scam. But now there's actually like real products that people use. So this is a category that's growing in my sort of research process. But let's get started. Let's look at the token list. So So Hyperliquid is the first one we're going to talk about. I wanted to start on probably like the best exemplar that we've seen in the past few years of a token done right. Okay. I would put Hyperliquid as an S tier project. Okay. This is like as good as it gets, very minimal flaws. They've done everything right. I really like what they've done here. Okay. And we're going to talk about why. So Hyperliquid, first of all, is a world-class team. They have 10 employees with an average revenue of 100 million per employee. Okay. If that doesn't tell you a world-class team, I don't know what does. Multi-billion annual revenue potential. The token holders are placed as number one. This is because the entire project is built around the token. So even the ecosystem projects aim to accumulate hype. The whole ecosystem is aligned to get more hype. And hype is actually one of the only tokens where people try to get more of it from the profits that they make from other tokens, right? Think about when you hold Bitcoin and you buy altcoins. The goal is to make a bunch of money on altcoins and then go back to Bitcoin. How many other tokens can you say the same? Well, hype sort of slowly becoming that. Ethereum, Solana a little bit. So that's a good sign. 93%, I think roughly of the revenue that they make buys Hyperliquid. And a lot of that is just, set aside and never to be sold. A lot of it's put back into the ecosystem as well. They're very intentional about flywheels. They always try to create new flywheels, new ways to benefit the token. Is a generational founder, 100%. Also highly competent team. All the smartest CT figures hold hype. So if you analyze on chain, it's very good. Holder base, large percent of the supply was airdropped to basically early users at the launch. So that was a really good way to distribute the token to the most loyal people. It was a relatively new token generation event for a top 20 protocol. Most of the top 20 protocols launched years before hype did. So that's good. It's not too old of a project. Objectively, the product is better than its competitors. That's why it keeps growing. Also, the distribution strategy Hyperliquid's doing with integrations with Phantom Wallet and other different wallets is really smart because it allows them to get their product out and just focus on being the infrastructure layer instead of being the front end. And then they're also hosting its own ecosystem of apps. So it's an ecosystem, right? Ecosystem projects get larger value premiums. They're worth more. There's two downsides though that I see. There's a 3% supply unlock that's going to occur in November, which is honestly a pretty big chunk of supply. So it's yet to be seen what the foundation does with this supply. Are they going to start selling? Because, they could just be using the Hyperliquid buyers front running the Hyperliquid revenue going into buying Hyperliquid. They might just be doing that to make the high price as high as possible to dump their supply that they get unlocked, Revenue is for buying the token, but token unlocks are for selling. And then also only 27% of the total supply is actually circulating. So there's a lot more of the token that has to come out at some point, which is not amazing. But everything else about the project is really good. You don't really get better than this, okay? This is as good as it gets. So token number 2 is, I'm going to go to like more the opposite end of the spectrum. World Liberty Finance is Trump's project. We're probably going to put this around an E or an F. Let's put it at an E because I don't think it's the worst project in the world, but I think it's pretty bad. We'll put it around here. So let's talk about World Liberty Finance. Basically, it's Trump's DeFi project where they are launching their own stablecoin and they're going to launch a number of different competitor platforms to like existing DeFi stuff. So competitor to Aave, competitor to USDC, that sort of thing. With the Trump Connect, I view that as a good thing, right? You can argue the team is very high level probably because it's people connected to Trump. However, how crypto native is Trump's team going to be? I'm not entirely sure. It might just be really smart guys from TradFi, which I don't know. You need some crypto native guys to really make it work. The TGE was very recent. I think they only launched a token a couple weeks ago. So that's a good sign. New tokens tend to do better than older tokens. And it ties into the stablecoin narrative. So they've launched their own stablecoin called USD1. It already is in the top 60 tokens. It's got like a 2.5 billion market cap. So they launched a stablecoin and obviously stablecoin narrative is going to be massive. We saw how good Circle did when they did the IPO. They launched on the stock exchanges. They did really well. So yeah, stablecoin narrative is also good for the project. There is a lot of downsides though. When I look at this project, I don't know if token holders are being prioritized as number one. I'm not surprised that this has happened, but it's still objectively not the best structuring compared to Hyperliquid. The token holders, they only really get voting rights. There's nothing else. However, I think there's a vote occurring now and there's probably going to be votes in the future over where they should be distributing revenue. And I would say the token holders will probably vote for revenue to go into buying back the WorldFi token. So whether that actually passes or not is, can we imagine a project like that that's, a Trump project putting money into buying the token and burning it? Is that really something they would do? I mean, if you take a step back for a second and you think about the the approach of putting revenue into buying your token, it's not the most effective use of capital, I think, because it's basically turning US dollars, which is real money, into your shitty token, which is fake money. You know, how liquid is a US dollar versus how liquid is a WildFi token? It's like converting from US dollars to coupon cards. Like, sure, like you're going to make the value of the coupon cards go up, but you're in coupon cards. It's not like the best use of capital. So I like buybacks because there's not many ways in crypto that you can own a token and feel like you have ownership over the future cash flow, right? There's not many other methods because you're going to get categorized as a security if you start distributing dividends to token holders. It's not going to work. It's the only way to really get around those security laws at the moment. However, I still don't think it's like the best strategy. It's not like a great strategy. It's like picking from the best of the shit, essentially. So we'll see if Trump actually does that with this project. I doubt it. But yeah, they raised $500 million at a $1.5 billion or more valuation, which is massive, right? I think one of the largest rounds they raised was like a 20 billion FDV or something. I can't quite remember, but it was massive. They're building a lot of DeFi projects. DeFi as a sector doesn't really command a value premium as much as like an AI project does or a stablecoin project does. So is it going to command a value premium here? I'm not sure. WildFi, they froze Justin Sun's allocation to their token. I don't know why, but I don't know. It sounded like he was doing something suspicious, or maybe he began selling tokens and they were just like, you know what? Fuck this guy. We're going to burn his tokens. So that's a red flag, in my opinion. It's already a top 35 token with a 22 billion FDV. How much higher can it really go? They're not building a 0-to-1 primitive. There's nothing new here. They're just building existing things, which is fine, but it's, you know, not exciting. And there's no clear intentional flywheels yet. However, the token is very new. So with all of this said, there is some good things about the project. Trump Association, stablecoin focus, and a couple other things is great. The project could develop better over time depending on how they approach the allocation of revenue and different things. I would say WildFi is a pretty shit token in my opinion. It's not something I would really ever buy. I think you could buy WildFi for like a shorter term trade, but this is more from the perspective of like, I want to hold a token for a year. What could I hold for a year sort of thing? Now, next up, we got Uniswap. Uniswap, I would probably put honestly around the same level. I think Uniswap might be a little bit worse than WildFi, or probably about the same. Okay. So let's talk about Uniswap. Obviously, Uniswap is a DEX. It's the first one that did the AMM, automated market maker approach to trading. So they were the inventor of a new meta. They created a 0-to-1 primitive, right? It's a highly competent team, world-class founder. Product is objectively very good, but competition is rising with Aerodrome taking most of the market share on Base, for example. And Base is where I think majority of the volume is going to be for ETH-based trading. And there's a lot of downsides. You know, I just talked about how they created AMMs, right? But this is old tech. Everyone does this now. There's going to be new innovations on top of that. We're already seeing platforms like Edge protocol on Base sort of taking that next innovation of trading. So it's now a negative. Token holders are definitely not the number one priority. It's been years of back and forth of trying to turn on the fee switch. The community has been like, please, you're making hundreds of millions of dollars. Please just put the revenue back into the token, at least some of it. And they never have. So everyone who's holding it is really just like holding it for the hope that the Uniswap token actually does anything besides just being used for DAO proposals, which is fucking lame, right? Shouldn't be worth $1 billion if you just hold it to vote on a DAO proposal, right? That doesn't work. It's an old token. It's been around for years. It's had multiple 80% declines. It's an old narrative. A DEX doesn't really command a value premium anymore. So really, this is just a trash token. Definitely would put it at the E level, okay? Next up, we got Pudgy. I think Pudgy is somewhere between an A and an S, probably around here, I would put it. Pudgy's a very good token. Again, world-class founder, Luca Netz, props to him. High-level team. The token generation event was pretty recent. It saw a 90% decline though, so the holder base has been tested, but it's near the all-time high, so I think it's fine. They're estimating to make 50 million annual rev, and they're going to apparently buy and burn Pengu tokens with revenue. So let's say they make 40 mil and they put 10 mil into buying Pengu and they're at a 2 billion market cap. It's not a bad amount, but it's not crazy. I think the revenue potential also is pretty big. They could make maybe 500 million a year, depending on how big they build the Pudgy brand. Really, like if they just make this Pudgy character like super mainstream, they can sell anything. There's like 100 different things they could sell. So there's pretty big revenue potential, especially if they do like movie partnerships with Disney and, you know, different things like that. Majority of the supply is already already circulating, which is a good sign, not like Hyperliquid. So it's a little bit better in that respect. It's also got a linear unlock schedule. So it's not like 3% comes out all at once onto the market. It's slow and steady, starting early next year. It's got a cult-like holder base, I would say, pretty strong community, strong roots in Asia as well. The initial distribution, a lot of it was an airdrop to various groups, which is good, to mostly the Pudgy Penguin holders, the NFTs. And they've developed a pretty major moat as one of the fastest growing characters globally. It's probably the only meme coin that actually has a chance of going mainstream, that has a team behind it that will actually monetize that fame. Because for example, Doge, right? Doge can go as popular as you want, but there's no way for them to like monetize that fame because no one owns Doge. It's just a meme. Whereas this is like a meme, but it's a character, it's a company. I think that's sort of like an advantage that they have. You know, it's sort of hard to just rely on a meme to grow by itself these days. Memes can't just grow by themselves these days in respect to the token. There's always a cabal behind it. Whereas with Doge, it was like sort of organic. It just grew. So I think Pudgy Penguins, the Pengu character, is like one of the only ones that can actually get to the mainstream that's in crypto right now. They had the NASCAR placement last week, which was pretty cool. However, there's some downsides. It's already a 2 billion market cap. It's a meme coin. So it's the 5th biggest meme. You know, how much bigger can it go? I guess it could get to above Doge, which would be like a 10, 20x from here. But I think for Pengu to go 5x from here, so to 10 billion market cap, there would have to be some massive like adoption. Like the thesis would have to really play out. So there's execution risk in that respect. Also, there's a bit of demand dilution because there's the Pudgy NFTs and then there's also an abstract airdrop. So there's just a lot of different demand dilution in the market. It's not just a token, there's a lot of things. So overall, I'd place Pudgy maybe not fully S tier, not A tier, somewhere in the middle, I would say. Okay. Next up, we got Pump. So Pump's an interesting one. I would put Pump as A tier. A little bit worse than Pudgy, but still like a pretty solid token. Now, this one's controversial because it was only like a month ago, everyone hated Pump. And a lot of you probably still hate Pump because you just got this like remnant memory of when everyone was talking about it and you haven't looked into it since. But I'm going to give you my analysis, which I think you really need to listen to, because if you still think Pump's shit, and you need to listen to this because it's not. Again, obvious world-class founder and team, 500 mil plus revenue potential. They created a whole new meta. They did the bonding curve launch pad. They also have live streaming with people launching tokens. You know, it's new stuff. The TG was very recent, so it's not an old token. They've already bought back 6% of the supply in a very short amount of time. And the team has over $1 billion in the treasury that they can use to build the product further. So they've got money. In the past week, they've been buying back 100% of rev into their token. So I don't know what the average number is of like how much percent of rev they're putting into buying back, but at the moment it's 100%. Pump has basically won back majority of the user and the volume market share from Bonk and Heaven, showing there's a true stickiness of the user base. So, you know, just to keep it short, Bonk came along and they basically cabal pumped a bunch of memes on their chain, and all the volume and users went over there because everyone hated Pump all of a sudden because the guy's Jewish and they think he's just trying to take all their money. And then nothing really exciting actually launched on Bonk. It was just a bunch of like forced narratives and stupid shit. And then everyone came back to Pump because that's where all the real things are launching. You know, the volume and the users left, which made it seem like there was no stickiness. But even though all the volume and users left, the actual good launches didn't leave. And also the Pump has a way better team than Bonk. Bonk is a mid team, so they didn't leave either. And that's what's most important, right? For me, it's a sign of the stickiness of the user can change, but the stickiness of where the best coins are launching and who has the best team doesn't. And that's what dictates long-term market share, not just temporary sort of bumps, which is what we've seen. So Pump is back to basically owning the market. It's basically the only launch pad bringing real innovation. What did Bonk do that was innovative? Nothing. Oh, we buy and burn the Bonk token. Shut up. No one cares. Heaven comes along. We put 100% of revenue in the buying Heaven. Fuck off. No one cares, right? So Pump is the only one actually doing real innovations. They just launched something called Project Ascend, which is an incentive mechanism for live streaming to grow on their platform. That's where they think, you know, the next meta is going to be with live streaming. So, you know, that's really good stuff there. Now let's get into the negatives. Obviously, they've bought back 6% of the total Pump supply. However, the consistency of these buybacks isn't certain, right? They haven't said, we're going to buy back with 60% of our revenue permanently. They're doing a lot of buybacks, but it's like, is it just going to stop once the price goes up? Like, there's still a bit of skepticism in my mind about how long they're going to do buybacks for. Also, one of the co-founders left. What does that mean? What was happening in that guy's brain when he was like, you know what, guys, had enough, I'm leaving? And does that mean more people are going to leave? Like, how important was the co-founder to the business? So, it's just a couple red flags there that are not clear. And that's why it's an A tier token, in my opinion. If they resolved those things, it would probably move up to S tier, to be honest, because it's a perfect project. Amazing team, awesome buybacks are locked in, the founders locked in, they're innovating, making a bunch of money. It's an S tier token at a 2 billion valuation, right? So now it's A tier because of those things. And last token we've got is RE. A lot of you probably haven't heard of this token. I'm going to put this one also, I think, at the A level. Okay, we're going to talk about RE. So most of you don't know this coin. It's basically an AI project on Base. They're building a different type of AI. It's not an LLM. It's an AI which has the capability of memory in a real sense, not just the memory that they do with ChatGPT, actual memory that stores. And also they basically focused on more crypto use case. So it's all about integrations with different crypto AI agents and connecting to the blockchain and different things like that. So the founder is incredibly smart. However, he's a non, so you can't really vet past experience, but apparently he's been in AI for 10 years, built lots of different things, 100 million plus rev potential, to be honest, probably even more. And 0-1 primitive, like I said, genuine memory, also inference time learning, so you can train the AI as you're using it, and it gets smarter as you use it. You can teach it things, right? The problem with ChatGPT is I say, hey, you fucked up here, don't do it again. And nothing changes. I can't teach it anything. You can teach us AI things, which is cool. The TGE was late last year, so it's not like super new because it's also had a 90% decline where it almost died, but it went to a new all-time high a month ago, so it's still alive. And token holders are definitely number one priority. I think the tokenomics with this token is probably the most exciting thing for me because the tokenomics remind me a lot of Hyperliquid. Like everything they've done here is very Hyperliquid coded, in my opinion. So it's a little bit complex. I'll keep it simple, but there's a lot of different integrations of the RE token. For example, when they do basically, Virtual has this launchpad, right? Virtual on Base, where you have an AI agent launching a token for its product. If you hold Virtual, you can participate in the launch and you can get that token, right? Same thing for RE. There's going to be a bunch of different AI agents in the future which use the RE tech, and they're going to come to RE and say, hey, I want to launch a project. I want to have a token, can we launch for you? And then RE will go to the people who stake RE and say, hey, you guys can invest because you're staking RE. Right? Same thing as Virtual, right? There's also going to be trading fee discounts and different things. Also not trading fee discounts, like product usage discounts, staking rewards, different things like that. Also, a portion of revenue will go into buying RE from the open market. There's no VCs. They did a very small public raise at launch. They raised about $500,000, gave away a lot of the supply. And the only exposure you can get now is just buying it on the liquid on the open market. So it's got a heavily retail holder base. However, it does have some VCs. It's also got a decent amount of smart money holders, not as much as Kita or Tiba. Those are definitely the biggest ones on Base in that regard, but it's doing well. It's got a pretty strong high-level community. If you read all the different posts about RE on Twitter, it's really high-level stuff, threads from different guys. It's not much stupid talk, which is cool. They also have their own slang and mannerisms. So there's different words like GREI, which is G-R-E-I. It's like their own way of saying GM and different things. Building in the AI niche, AI projects command large value premiums. Also, this project here, I would say probably commands a larger value premium potentially than other AI projects because this is not just some AI agent. It's basically an entirely new AI, which is not an LLM. It's not supposed to be a competitor to ChatGPT. It's sort of an extension of it. It's like the next iteration of what they're trying to build. And in that respect, whether it works or not, is a different story. But from a narrative standpoint, and the premium that it can command through that narrative is larger than an AI agent, which is just, a bit more specific. Is the infrastructure layer for a new suite of AI agents built on top of the RE core AI. So yeah, it hosts an ecosystem, which is one of the points that I talk about over here. Does it host an ecosystem? Yes. Sort of like Virtual, right? Product has positive feedback across the board, but it's still early, right? It's still early. Like it's not like a really clear, this product is fucking sick. It's sort of like, it's good, pretty good. It's pretty cool, but still too early. The team executes and they ship things really fast. I've seen them regularly ship things on like a Sunday, so it's good. Not that weekends matter much in crypto, but it's just a little thing to note. Most of the early buyers still hold the original positions on chain, which is also good. Now, there's definitely risks with this one. This is why it's not S tier. The teams are non, so you can't really fully vet. I mean, I couldn't fully vet the accomplishments and the competency of the team. You just really have to look at like, what are they pushing in terms of updates? And it's been pretty good so far. I've been following the project for a while. What they're pushing is pretty solid. And also you have to look at what other people are saying and take it with a grain of salt. And people are saying pretty good things. The biggest risk for me is definitely the execution risk. So what they're trying to build is pretty crazy. And there's I would say, low chance that it succeeds because it's such an innovative thing that they're trying to build. And also the timeline to get it built is quite long too. So the risk that you have is that between now and the product really getting good, people might just get impatient. And then you have the bear market begins. And then it's like, fuck, who cares if they built it, because now you're in a bear market, can't even sustain a 50 million valuations, goes down 95%, you know? So there's risk from that standpoint. When do you actually buy? If it's going to take 2 years to build, when do you buy? That's a risk, I would say. And the product isn't far enough along where, you know, we're 100% clear in the abilities and the competency of the team to fulfill the roadmap. Like, the product's good, it works, but it's still early. So we have to wait and see. There's also not like peer-reviewed tests where they've done like proper testing of like, here's ChatGPT, here's Ray, here's an objective comparison. They've done like basic tests, but it's not that clear. So that is why we give Ray an A. So that's the list. That's the 6 projects that I've looked at. Hopefully you guys learn a bit here. In regards to Pump, actually, I used this framework to buy Pump about a month ago at a 1.1 billion valuation. I bought it right here on the 23rd of July. I bought a bunch and it's now at 1.7. I think Pump's going to go to new all-time highs, to be honest. I think, you know, everything that they're doing is really good. They've taken back all the market share. They're buying back with 100% of rev into the token. It's basically the only token doing Hyperliquid revenue, but it's valued 10 times lower than Hyperliquid. So I think it's going to do really well. I'm up a bunch of money on this one. Just so you know, I run a research team with over 20 high-level analysts. We search the market across the board, mostly on base for 100x plays. And the valuation framework I taught you guys here with rating these coins is basically what I follow for all the coins that I'm buying. For example, like I said, buying Pump here. And buying Pump here is not easy, right? Everybody was shitting on Pump. Like, buying it there is not an easy feat. That's what you got to do to make money. So if you'd like to follow my exact investments and simplify your approach to crypto investing by working alongside a pro, I run a private mastermind community where you can navigate the bull run alongside me with only 5 hours a week. Very low time investment. I keep things pretty hands-off for you guys. So if you'd like to apply, here's the website here. Type it in, danscryptomastermind.com, and I'll check your application soon if you send it in. So yeah, thank you for watching the video. See you guys in the next one. Cheers.